next to Jennifer. Magistrate Jennifer Bowles, or Jenny in a more informal context. As you heard from Heather Zwicker earlier, was really, when she was speaking on radio, was speaking, which then led to the UQ colleague Karen Hussey sort of picking up and the stimulus for this whole concept. So bragging rights or ownership rights, Jennifer certainly has part of that. So her fellowship, which was in 2014, was to review options for residential therapeutic treatment for young people suffering substance abuse and or mental illness, and she travelled to New Zealand, the UK and Sweden. Jennifer.
Thanks, David. I'd also like to commence by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the people of the Ngunnawal country, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I've been a magistrate for over 22 years, and for most of that time I've sat in the Children's Court of Victoria. And I'm very pleased and proud to present to you today my capacity as a Churchill Fellow. I'd like to commence by reading an extract from a poem which was written to me by a person I've called Greg when he was in custody. When he came before me, he didn't have a criminal history, first up. However, he had a long-standing dependence on alcohol and cannabis. He was in custody for repeated thefts of bottles of vanilla essence, which you may not know, I didn't know, has a 35% alcohol content. He'd experienced a number of psychotic episodes for which he'd been hospitalised, and whilst in custody he wrote, "I pray for a saviour to conquer my compulsive behaviour, which keeps leading me into trouble and life-threatening danger. I feel weighed down and burdened with responsibility, having to work on getting better and back to normality. It seems like it's all too much. After years of such fuss, I'm prepared to give up and declare that I've had enough. If I am to die, please keep in mind that I did try. Tears come to my eyes. At times I've contemplated suicide." On 3 occasions we arranged for Greg to attend a 7-day residential detox program, but such was the force of his addiction, he left every time within a few hours, and he continued to steal and drink, being found unconscious on a driveway. He assaulted his mother when she didn't give him money to buy cannabis, and he became embedded in the criminal justice system. In my view, he needed a health response, not a criminal justice response. And unfortunately, this is what I see every day in court. Young people without hope. For those in detention, almost 90% have a history of alcohol or drug use. And these are children who are under 18 I'm talking about. Significantly, 83% of them offended whilst they were under the influence of alcohol and drugs. More than 2/3 are victims of abuse, trauma or neglect. And 57% of young people in detention in Australia identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, and yet their young people are only 6% of our population. In Victoria, 135 young people in child protection are missing from care every week. That's how many warrants we're issuing for them to be located and taken back usually to their residential units. And they have the similar characteristics to what I'm describing of the children in detention. Many of them, there's an overlap, they're what we call, I don't know if it's a good word, but crossover children. The current system is not working for young people with serious substance abuse issues, as they must voluntarily engage in treatment, and for the most part, they don't. The purpose of my Churchill Fellowship was to determine whether court-ordered, mandated treatment, commencing in a secure home, could be effective. As David said, I visited facilities in Sweden, England, Scotland and New Zealand, including inpatient wards, secure homes, residential programs and outreach services. And in short, the answer to my question was yes. Overwhelmingly, the views expressed by experts and young people I spoke to were that mandatory treatment can be as effective as voluntary treatment, provided certain critical elements are present, and I stress the critical elements must be present. From these findings, I developed the What Can Be Done model. The key policy recommendations include to amend legislation to enable children's courts to make youth therapeutic orders. The order would place the young person initially in a secure but homely residence with committed and high-quality staff, a therapeutic community model, education and training was present at all the facilities I visited, and a culturally safe environment. There would then be step-down homes on site, followed by effective transition and support into the community. My recommendations are supported by all of the key industry leaders in Victoria who are members of my steering committee that I established on my return. I'm imploring the federal government to lead the national response for effective mandated substance abuse treatment for young people, because it's young people throughout Australia who are afflicted as I've described, to take the model to National Cabinet and provide funding to the states and territories to support the establishment of the model. The daily cost of the model is less than or comparable to detention. My model enables early intervention to disrupt the tragic trajectory these young people otherwise face. Society benefits both from improved safety and economically, as for every dollar spent on alcohol and drug treatment, the return is a saving of $8 in health costs, welfare benefits, and the justice system. For the sake of the children, we can do better, and I think we must do better. Thank you.